All right. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to our first webinar of the series between TransformX and Vonage, the title CPaaS Empowering Global Mobility. We're very excited to kick this off in partnership with Vonage. What a year, what a fantastically interesting year this has been. Lots of ups and downs. Unfortunately, many that could not make it this year and many deaths as well. And we're very, very sorry for that. But the world has changed in so many ways in 2020, especially since February, especially with the onset of COVID-19. And the things that we had imagined in terms of how the evolution of each of the industries was going to happen has completely not only transformed, but has also fast forwarded to now. The transformations that were supposed to happen 5 years from now are starting to happen now. And if you look around you, the way every facet of our lives, every facet of society is changing completely. And the way you communicate, the way you buy, the way you consume is completely different from what it was at the beginning of the year. So we're very excited to begin this journey with multiple pieces as well. Daniel, can you go to the next slide? We partnered with Vonage for multiple reasons. Vonage is a global player in the telecommunications enhancement space. And over the years, they've completely transformed themselves into a customer experience transformation company with a real bedrock of security and the platform that enables communications in so many different ways as well. And if you look at how consumption is happening in not only our personal life, but in businesses as well, voice, text, video, bots, so many new avenues are starting to come through that are completely changing the conversation of the way we order things, the way we buy things, the way we eat things, and every other facet as well. We've partnered with Vonage to bring some of those things to our clients and customers and prospects as well. And the idea is very simple. The idea is to handhold organizations that are really starting to understand what their next generation of customers look like and what these communication technologies can help enable them with. Communication platforms as a service, or CPaaS as it's called, is completely impacting global businesses in this way. And we're partnering with Vonage for not only this one mobility piece, which covers the aspects of transportation and logistics, but also about financial services, healthcare, and education as well in the strides in the coming months as well. We look forward to this partnership. We look forward to the journey with our clients and customers and prospects, and really begin to jointly understand what this new normal is starting to become. We've got a great panel with us today. We've got two industry leaders helping us really take this conversation forward today. Imran Lagunar, 20 plus years in multiple facets and multiple continents with Motorola and many other global retailers. He's going to continue the conversation from a holistic piece in how mobility is evolving. And then we've got Stephen Jaffray, who is a senior product manager with Vonage. And he's going to take the leap forward in explaining to you guys how the technology is evolving, how each facet of this evolution is being enabled by each of the areas of the Vonage technology as well. Next slide. We wouldn't be remiss if we're not going to take a moment to give this a shameless plug on who we are and what we do. TransformX is a global transformation company that helps with human-centric transformations. And what that means is we help our clients with the customer aspect, the employee aspect, as well as the organizational aspects of not only the way things are starting to go, but we're helping them build journeys, helping understand which technologies to buy, and then whatever your technology stack is, we're helping you get closer to what the reality of the business and help move the bottom line of your business as well. With that, I will pass the baton over to my colleague Imran Lagunar, who will start to delve into what the mobility piece is. So, Imran, over to you.
Thank you, Javed. Hello, my name is Imran Lagunar, and I'm heading the digital strategy at TransformX. Been with TransformX about 2 years, and as Javed mentioned, I've been in the U.S. technology industry for about 20 years, with prior working experience in Motorola, Continental AG, Sears Home Services, and J.C. Penney. And today I'll give a brief overview of how mobility, that is mobility and movement of people, goods, and money, it has transformed the simple means of travel and trade into an integral part of our daily life. And I'll also touch base on how today's digital world has become more consumer driven paradigm. And then I'll give the baton over to Vonage team, they will talk deeply about the products and offerings surrounding CPaaS and mobility. Next slide, Daniel. Daniel, okay. So how long mobility in people and goods been around since man is entered this earth, and according to industry standards, we can compartmentalize the mobility paradigm and ecosystem into 4 evolutions. So I'll talk each of them briefly to give a quick background, and then I'll dive deeper into the mobility 4.0. So the first one, Mobility 1.0, it was pretty much more of the same uh, till 1700s, largely based on agriculture, commodity trade. Till about 18th century, waterways were the primary channel of transportation, with majority of trade routes around seaports and metropolises on major rivers. Primary means, horses, carriages, they were the layers of mobility and transportation. Then we moved into Mobility 2.0, and that was during the 1800s. So in 19th century onwards, we saw the birth of steam engine, we saw the birth of electric power, networks of railways started to spawn around the globe. We saw the invention of telegraph and telephone, mail order catalogs, and we also saw the modernization of transportation, making it safer, more capable, reaching longer routes with minimum stops. So in a nutshell, if you look back, this was actually the groundbreaking for the modernization and industrialization of economy where we see today. That was the birth of modern economy. Mobility 3.0, if you look at it in a high level, during the 1900s, that's where things started to change drastically in a shorter span of time. So you saw till 1700, the world was pretty stagnant as far as transportation and mobility. 18th century saw some changes, then 19th century it really picked up. And we saw changes in automation and industries, in factories, personal, later industrial computing platforms. We saw emergence in robotics, production, precision engineering, planes, automobiles joined the trains and ships that were there before. Internet was born, information highway engulfed the whole globe, terabytes of data available anywhere, anytime to anyone. So in a nutshell, the digital world was born in the Mobility 3.0, the 1900s era. There was also boom in public and individually owned vehicles and transportation towards the later part of 1900s. And while railroad became the backbone of mobility, it really was taken over by the air traffic and airplanes as a preferred method of fast and reliable delivery services and passenger transportation. Going into the 2000s, we have Mobility 4.0, which is the continued evolution of digital transformation of industries, businesses, and transportation. We saw the birth of Internet of Things, social media, voice of the customer becoming the driving force in the customer journey. We saw the emergence of big data, birth of shared economy, which I'll talk more about, mobility, shared mobility, just to throw a couple of names, Uber, everybody knows about them, and autonomous vehicles and drones, they're coming into commercial use now. And all of these were powered by a platform, among others, primarily by a communication platform as a service, which is CPaaS, which really transformed the service, the transformation of transport from service to its ownership. Next slide, please. So Mobility 4.0, if you look a step lower from a high level, we can divide it into three verticals. The first one, we can say crowdsourced logistics. Then we have robotics in supply chain and warehouses, which also includes drones for delivery. So I'll combine those into one vertical. And then we have shared transportation. What I mean by crowdsourced logistics, so traditionally we had logistic companies like DHLs, UPSs around the globe, which had dedicated staff or maybe some subcontractors, but still working for UPS, doing the deliveries of goods and food and whatnot. Now with the shared and crowdsourced economy stepping in, we're looking into a big steep rise into shared model of individual transportation and individual drivers being used for delivery methods. So for food delivery, for example, in crowdsourced model, we see Uber Eats, we have Careem. In goods delivery, we have Aramex, DHL, delivery. Again, I mentioned Aramex. And then for contract local freight, we have Ubers and some other companies in South Asia that are also emerging for that. The second vertical I'll talk about is the robotics and supply chain warehouse and drones. So a lot of new technology is being evolved as far as autonomous mobile robots, which is AMR, which are taking over the jobs of humans. One way of looking at it, human jobs are being depleted, but at the same time, the productivity and transparency across the shipping and supply chain is becoming more and more improved. So machines are basically talking to machines. So the chances of they're eliminating the human intervention, it has a much lower cost of operation. Uh, there are no time offs, there's no medical expenses and whatnot. And AMR also are being used primarily these days in hospital for life-saving medications and organ transplant. So that's not something very new. That is in play right now. Something that is waiting FAA approval in US is Amazon's Prime Air. So that's a drone delivery model where we will be using drones for doing 30 minutes or less delivery instead of sending a truck in multiple direction. One truck will carry one package to one address, which is 30 minutes and less, same day guarantee service. It also will uh, provide the service providers and logistics providers a very fast delivery mechanism in crowded areas like downtown, inner city, where traffic congestion can cause delays. At the same time, it will be more economical in remote and rural areas where you don't have to send one truck, one driver, 100 miles apart just to deliver a package, which the shipping cost is much lower than the fuel they just burn, not to mention the labor cost. So the mechanisms are changing, the dynamics are changing delivery. The third model I'll touch base and highlight in Mobility 4.0 is the shared transportation, which is the e-hailing like Uber, Lyft in US and across the globe, carpooling like Blablacar in Europe, and car bike sharing like Turo that, I have a car and I'm not using it on certain times, I can rent it out. So these models are really redefining the way mobility is going forward into the next century, in this and next century. And a lot of this is movement of data, seamless, secure, scalable data across different platforms in different formats, talking to each other. And that is what is driving it. And we'll talk furthermore on that. How is that made possible that all these different platforms are talking to each other in a seamless way where the consumer actually just see one app and they don't know what's going behind the scene. Next slide, Danielle, please. Okay, so in this slide, you'll see that there's a lot of talk about last mile delivery and its impact. So that's the new sharing economy and how the economy, delivery economy is evolving. A lot of emphasis is being given to the last mile delivery. And what is last mile delivery? It's basically in a product's journey from warehouse shelf to the customer doorstep. The last mile delivery is the final step. That is when it gets out, leaves the warehouse and arrives at the doorstep. And traditionally, customers did not have the visibility and transparency. Where is my package? It's said, it's supposed to arrive today, same day delivery. It's not here. I took a time off. So all these things, were piling up, and now the economy is getting to more towards consumer-driven economy. So a lot of these changes are stemming up from what consumer expectations are. And also like to mention last mile deliveries, believe it or not, it is the most expensive piece of this whole delivery chain of events. It's 53% of overall cost from going from warehouse to the doorstep. 53% is of the cost is last mile delivery. So it's a big sticker item for the service providers. It's the most time consuming in the shipping process also. So businesses have become to really increase the parcel volume, to expedite deliveries, and delight the customers, all while trying to cut the cost. And with the growing, demand for free shipping, now the shippers have to swallow that cost. So it's a double whammy for the shippers. So, you put all these things together, you realize last mile delivery is really a critical driver into shared economy. So how do the traditional providers are moving towards and adapting to this new model of they're going towards a crowdsource model in which they are setting up, going after startups with lower cost, asset light operation, improved customer experience. And how do they do it? They're connecting directly with local, most of the time non-professional couriers who use their own transportation to make deliveries. So that's where the crowdsourcing comes in. Sounds easier, but now you're asking a multi-billion dollar established organization trying to cope with 3,000 individual contractors who have different smartphones, no platform to run off with. And that's where, again, CPaaS comes into play. How does this communication back and forth is seamless and scalable and secure so that there's minimum impact on the customer. Next one, next slide, please. So just to highlight a little more on the robotics piece of it, since it's something that is the newest one, the newest kid on the block, I would say. And like I said, Amazon Prime Air is still under approval, waiting from the US government FAA. But it's going to be in warehouses. It's being deployed. The robots are in warehouses as we speak right now. And the study, one of the studies, say by end of 2021, these robots will ship about 620,000 units all by themselves with zero human intervention. So think about the scale of zero defects, zero errors, and zero loss as far as shipment is concerned from shipping from warehouses and the right product going to the right customer at the right time. So huge impact. Currently, they're in use by DHL, FedEx, and Malabar, which is a German company based out of US. Some of the drone delivery examples I have up here. You have Amazon Prime. And again, going back to what I said earlier, primary reason for drones is faster delivery, heavily used in medical field right now, reduced road congestion, environmentally safer, less pollution, less delivery time, and reduced operational costs as far as fuel and labor is concerned. So, but these are not long distance delivery mechanisms as of yet, maybe down the road, but these are 30 minutes or less primarily being deployed over there. Next slide, please. So this is a snapshot, having given a little background, what the shared economy looks like and how different players are working together with different platforms. This slide, I'm not going to go too much detail into this one. This is a pretty busy slide, and unfortunately, I don't have the time. But to give you a snapshot and a little background, this is how different providers and of various sectors of economy come together and create a shared experience for today's consumer-driven mobility industry. So without going into too much detail, you can comprehend the complexity and intricacies of huge amount of data that flows from different platforms on different formats and protocols, yet in a seamless, secure, and scalable experience for the consumer. They don't see, this is the background. The consumer only sees a nice looking app. And you can see on the slide, you have Uber, you have Google, you have Get, you have Volkswagen, believe it or not, manufacturer, Ford, You have BMW, you have a bank, SoftBank, some more banks are there too. All of these providers have their own platforms, their own siloed platforms, I would say, their own data protocol, their own security protocols. But the CPaaS, the communication platform as a service and associated APIs enable them to share all of this data instantaneously in a secure environment and provide a unified experience to the end users, in this case, transportation. And if anybody was wondering what this web looks like is from, this is the City of London's transportation background. So this is a backdrop. This is what happens for City of London. These are, if not all, almost all the players that talk to each other in an instant on a daily basis to make that transportation experience a very seamless for the consumers in London. So you can imagine how many big players and how much the amount of data that is going back and forth on just in City of London. So just expand it globally, you understand the complexity that falls into place. So to discuss this further on the CPaaS, again, the communication platform, and how Vonage is as a world leader in CPaaS and associated technologies and APIs, is reshaping the future of mobility. I'd like to introduce Stephen Groffey, who will be sharing Vonage's products and capabilities specifically to mobility.
Thank you, Imran.
And I'll welcome all the questions towards the end. Stephen, go ahead, please.
Thank you, Imran. Hello, everyone. As mentioned at the top of the webinar, my name is Stephen Giuffre, and I'm the Senior Product Marketing Manager for the voice portfolio of APIs at Vonage. I also have product marketing responsibility for the transportation and logistics vertical. Next slide, please. I'll start with a very quick overview about Vonage for those of you who may not be familiar with us or might know about some of our products and not others. Vonage is a global communications company that provides a number of solutions across the digital communication space. In addition to offering CPaaS by way of our API platform, we offer applications for unified communications and contact center solutions. Our API platform allows users to embed digital communications into their applications and experiences. These digital communications can be over voice, video, SMS, or social chat apps. The communication API platform terminates over 20 billion minutes and messages annually around the world, and the Vonage network of over 940,000 developers ranges from the smallest startups to larger scale enterprises. Next slide, please. My responsibility falls on the API platform side of the house, and that's where our focus is for today. Vonage communication APIs are embedded in a cloud-native, globally scalable platform that integrates with third parties and leverages our global carrier networks. Going top to bottom, use case APIs are pre-built APIs that solve for common scenarios. Verify, for example, validates user accounts with mobile two-factor authentication using SMS or voice. Programmable numbers include global virtual numbers for both text messages and voice. Our communication APIs are Vonage's comprehensive suite of communication channels on a global platform. These APIs are at the heart of the solutions for transportation and logistics, and I'll be focusing on those in more detail in just a moment and provide some more context in terms of how they support the key use cases within the vertical. The management APIs help you ensure you get the full value out of your Vonage account, API account, and includes the ability to download unlimited CDR data, as well as the ability to set up sub-accounts, which optimize project configurations, reporting, and billing. And then underpinning all this is our partner network, and we are pleased to be presenting to you today with TransformX, our go-to-market partner. The Vonage Enterprise Plan, which includes a service manager with expertise in implementation and architecture, and our global support team. Next slide, please. Vonage communication APIs deliver a wide range of solutions that drive better outcomes for brands and enriched experiences for their customers. And this is very much the case as we discuss the omnichannel solutions that drive the last mile and on-demand customer journeys. Any conversation can be programmed to create seamless experiences that drive customer acquisition, engagement, and loyalty using one, some, or all of these communication APIs. The Vonage Video API makes it easy to build a custom video experience within any mobile, web, or desktop application, and it's built on the WebRTC industry standard. Our Voice API, it enables companies of all sizes to create personalized and contextual call experiences for their customers. It features integration with emerging AI technology such as bots and deep data analysis. And the Voice API also seamlessly integrates with connectivity solutions such as SIP trunking and SIP endpoints. It may not be top of mind compared to messaging, but voice can also play an important role in providing security, order fulfillment, and alerts within this industry. With SMS, you can programmatically send and receive messages in practically every country. And in addition to SMS, integrating the Messages API into your solution provides your brand access to a wide variety of messaging channels, including social apps such as WhatsApp, Facebook Messenger, and Viber, as well as MMS and SMS. And you can also build branded chat experiences inside your mobile app with Vonage in-app messaging and branded voice experiences within the in-app voice. And with the email API, you can send transactional messages, notifications, and marketing campaigns throughout the journey as well. Next slide, please. Now let's explore how these APIs create and fulfill customer journeys from customer acquisition through support. As we review the last mile customer journey and then the on-demand transportation journey that follows, key takeaways here are customers and riders have better experiences when they have visibility into every stage of the journey, and that journey is secure throughout. And the interactions, the updates between purveyor and customer are available on the customer's channel or channels of choice. This also promotes a more satisfying experience. So in walking through this journey, let's look at this through the lens of the benefits that are achieved. First, better experiences drive customer loyalty, both from the start of the journey through fulfillment. Secure account establishment, verification, and purchases are accomplished via your channel of choice. The Messages API, which includes social messaging apps, and via SMS or voice in conjunction with the Verify app for two-factor authentication. Purchase confirmations can also be provided through the email API. Second, when customers are empowered with greater purchasing and delivery control, using self-service when preferred, that also promotes a better experience. This self-service is not limited to messaging channels. Voice with AI integration plays an important role too throughout this journey. For example, a use case that's growing in the food ordering and delivery industry is the ability to order by phone without human interaction using voice bots. So in addition to these automated responses, shipment and delivery notifications via the messaging channels, voice and AI plays an important role here for not just the delivery notifications, but the scheduling of pickups, scheduling of returns, in addition to more traditional customer service use cases. Video also plays a role, such as helping confirm damage when returning products or during the customer service experience. Finally, the ease of enabling these multiple channels is facilitated by the Conversation API, which brings them all into a single thread, which retains context across these channels. This is currently available with Vonage's Voice API and with in-app messaging and in-app voice. Next slide, please. So as we look at on-demand transportation, there are key similarities to the last mile journey we just reviewed. Customers and riders have better experiences when they have visibility into every stage of the journey. The journey is secure throughout, and the interactions are available on the customer's channel or channels of choice. So as we move from secure sign-up, I'd like to point out an element of the journey that's a bit more specific perhaps to the sub-vertical of e-hailing, car sharing, and micro rentals. That is the direct communication between dispatch and drivers and driver to passengers. These are communications that could be fulfilled with private voice or private SMS. This protects users' privacy by connecting them without exposing their real phone numbers. So whether we're talking about a product delivery or transporting passengers from point A to point B, when you empower customers with their preferred and secure modes of communication, provide instant self-service when as desired, you deliver better experiences, ultimately drive customer satisfaction, loyalty, and outcomes. There's also the additional benefit of efficiencies gained within your own organization, as fully automated and proactive notification processes can significantly reduce support calls. Next slide, please. So now let's provide a couple of examples via use cases. The first use case that I'll share is real-time critical alerts. As I've mentioned, the Vonage communication APIs provide visibility into every leg of the journey. These message-based critical alerts can be sent either by SMS or via voice. The benefits here are first-time delivery rates are improved when customers are alerted as to when their packages are expected to be delivered. Customers receive live updates about their packages during the transit process and also during handoff, and providing also handoff notifications, as well as when the package has been delivered to the intended location. Service inquiries will be decreased when updates such as delivery exceptions, rescheduling details are proactively sent to customers. Vonage can help here by creating a local presence in your delivery markets. Vonage has the largest inventory of SMS and voice-enabled numbers, so there's no shortage of numbers that you can use to create that local presence in the markets you serve and when communicating with your customers. Customers receive live updates about their package through local number pools that ensure each customer receives notifications from that local number, and it's consistent and recognizable within your delivery service. And as I mentioned earlier, while you would expect these alerts to be primarily by text, voice plays a role here. It can simply be a customer preference, or it can be an alert delivered to a landline. Vonage's SMS is low latency and high deliverability. We can send text messages to any SMS-capable device, fast, reliably. And then we also have proprietary adaptive routing to ensure optimal delivery to customers in any location. You can also eliminate any erroneous notifications. You can incorporate Vonage's Number Insight API to confirm the end user's phone numbers are valid and that those numbers are in fact able to receive those communications. Next slide, please. The next use case is transportation, is journey notifications for transportation. It's similar to the previous use case in that passengers are kept up to date with real-time alerts on their channel of choice. But something to emphasize in this use case is the calls between drivers and passengers are placed without revealing their numbers, without revealing rather their identities. Vonage can help here by, again, creating that local presence in your transportation markets by leveraging that inventory of SMS and voice-enabled numbers. And from this inventory, Vonage delivers private phone numbers where driver and passenger identities are not revealed. These masked numbers are one-time use, meaning they're for the purpose of the current journey only. The numbers cannot be used to connect either driver or passenger after the ride is complete in order to prevent any unwanted communications. And then also the numbers stay on the company platform. This keeps the conversations between the users on your marketplace to avoid any off-platform transactions. And as in the last use case, text messages that can be sent by SMS-capable devices, speed, reliability, and with adaptive routing. Next slide, please. Okay, I'd like to wrap up my section of today's webinar with two customer examples that show how Vonage's communication APIs are used in practice, enabling positive business outcomes and the enriched experience for their customers. The first example, customer example, is Aramex. Since their founding 38 years ago, Aramex has become a logistics and transportation solutions leader. They wanted to continue to build on that success by enriching the effectiveness of the delivery process and heighten the customer experience overall. They realized what happens in the last mile is a primary differentiation factor for them, and they wanted to focus on this as an important element of their continued digital transformation. The solution provided to Aramex that achieved these goals was social apps integration via specifically the WhatsApp business solution through the Vonage Messages API. In the first 6 months of this integration, over 1 million customers were served through WhatsApp. There was a 19% decrease overall in inbound calls, and transitioning inquiries to WhatsApp business solution to the business solution, 41% of shipment inquiries were processed through there as well. The other important thing to note is that by making this transition, there were those organizational efficiencies where calls were handled in a self-service mode immediately, and that reduced calls that were placed with live agents in the contact center. Next slide, please. The second customer story is a transportation example, Blablacar. So from the time that they introduced their ride-sharing app back in 2006, Blablacar knew that safety and security for both drivers and passengers would be critical to their success. Since that time, Blablacar has grown to be the world's leading long-distance carpooling platform. The app offers a marketplace for drivers who are traveling long distances and have empty seats to offer to passengers who are looking for a ride. They also introduced a short distance commuting carpooling service 2 years ago. Currently, Blablacar membership has over 90 million users, and they serve over 25 million travelers every quarter. Their successful business model offers a practical, social, and cost-effective alternative to traveling by plane, train, or single passenger road trips. The business challenge for Blablacar is that they required a method of user verification to eliminate fraudulent registrations, and that way they could build trust at scale. An additional goal was to increase their conversion rates for multiple verifications to ensure consistent user acquisition. This solution also needed to support the company's international expansion. So the solution that was provided was Vonage's SMS API with two-factor authentication. With this implementation, Blablacar is now able to send messages quickly and reliably, thereby achieving significantly higher success rates, and they're able to do this globally. And in addition, Blablacar uses SMS notifications to provide customers with information about their bookings and upcoming trips. So this concludes my section. At this point, I'll turn it over to Javed for next steps. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you, gentlemen. Thank you for the very detailed thing. I must say, the amount of interesting evolutions that have happened in this space, and a lot of it fueled by these new age types of systems. I mean, if you think about, API and, CPaaS, and so many of these concepts were just unheard of a couple of years ago as well. And how, to Imran's very busy slide, so many things are just interconnected, and it's these communication platforms and the integration through APIs that is starting to seamlessly bring that customer experience to the next phase as well. And customer experience is starting to become pretty much the bedrock of this entire piece, whether it's the sharing economy or the last mile delivery, so to speak. And as both of you have very aptly pointed out as well. So how do we help, and where do we, where does this journey go from here? Connect with us. We would love to engage and understand what is it that you're trying to achieve in your journeys around the customer, and how some of these aspects of SMS and voice and video and other types of APIs can be embedded into this journey, so that the right types of alerts can lead to right types of needling of your growth and profitability as well. With that, I believe we're going to open this up to some questions as well. No question is a stupid question, as my professors would say. All are good to go. We understand that we've got a disparate type of group here that's in attendance, and I have to give it to people. We've got representations from the large logistics and transportation providers, the DHL, the UPSs of the world, the large sharing economy ones, Uber, Careem, and others as well. And then we've got some small and mid-sized ones as well across the EMEA and APAC. So appreciate you guys joining in. I believe we have a few questions. I'm just going to put this up. The first question is by Lana Haj Youssef. The question is, would you please clarify if there is any difference in charging customer using SMS over IP or using the APIs? I think that's more for you, Steve.
Well, there are different charges associated with the channels. However, they are detailed and available in terms of what they are. They're in terms of they're rated in a similar fashion. It's just that the rates do vary slightly depending on what channel you're using.
Okay. And the next one that's come up is what is the best commercial model in the market as per Vonage experience? Not sure if I understood model? That one as well. Lana, could you clarify that question? Happy to address that, and we'll move on to the next one till you ask this one a little more clearly, please. Regarding notifications and alerts for tracking deliveries, I understand how text messages would provide immediate status, but how does voice fulfill this? Is there a recording? Steve, your neck of the woods.
Sure, of course. Well, delivery of alerts via voice is really, I would argue, as immediate and complete as messaging. For example, text-to-speech for entering tracking numbers and obtaining status can also be accomplished via voice. And so, with the advent of AI, these things are possible and immediate as well. So, and as I kind of mentioned earlier, voice would be a preferred use case if the request was coming in from a landline versus a mobile phone. So that experience really needs to be consistent.
Okay. How do CPaaS APIs provide data translations between different platforms?
So who's that a question for?
How do CPaaS APIs provide data translations between different platforms? Just want a little more clarification on that. What does that really mean? Imran, you wanna take that on?
On mute.
Imran, you're on mute.
I'm sorry, I was talking to myself. I can take it from a high level, and Stephen, you can add in from the technical aspect how Vonage does it. But in a nutshell, think of the APIs. Most of you have traveled, I'm sure, internationally. So think of API as a travel charger plug that you carry with you when you leave US or Europe and go to a different country. And you want to charge your phone, and you go to your hotel room, and you have a different socket. What are you going to do? You have different voltage. So think of that plug as an API. Basically, what API is doing it's taking a predefined set of data and understanding and agreeing on a set of protocols to transfer and translate their data to move it to the next segment. So if you take that chargers example, if I go to a hotel from US to, let's just say, London, first of all, the socket is going to be different. So I have to have that API to plug into that socket. The voltage is going to be different. Now that socket doesn't care where the electricity is being generated in Liverpool or Wessex or Essex or wherever, what the voltage is, how are the transmission lines bringing it to the hotel, subdivision, substation, and into the room. All it cares is, as long as those parameters are met for that data to come in, it will recognize this and then it will give it to the end user, which is going to be me, where my device will talk to that API and on a predefined set of data. So basically it's just a translation that is done on cloud. It's independent of the platform. And that's how this data is seamlessly and securely translated and transferred. Steve, if you want to go into more detail,
I think you've stated
technically,
that
but I
pretty
think at a
well.
high level, this is
Yep.
that's the example I can
Well,
come
no,
up.
that provides a good bit of detail. And as I mentioned, earlier, one of the things, as you continue the journey for, say, delivery, it includes the ability for handoff notifications. And so, as Imran suggested, it doesn't care. It's just part of that journey, and it's all the same platform, same solution. That's all integrated together. So, example here is when you have a brick and mortar restaurant using a digital delivery company for delivery. That is a consistent user experience when your order is prepared, ready to ship, and in transit. So the notifications provided are consistent and don't as a consumer, it's transparent in terms of where those handoffs happen. So it's all on the same platform. The journey is the same.
Mm-hmm. So to your point, Stephen, just to add the last sentences to it, on the delivery example that you gave, the consumer will have the user interface or GUI on their end, where they will not be exposed to what happens in the back end. And if you go back to the slide that I showed, that was just the City of London's transportation and the players involved. So in the smaller scale, when you have a delivery example from a restaurant, you have Google involved for location-based services. You have, I'll just take Vonage, AT&T, a lot of different players, but they have to agree on a set of protocols for specific data to come in and a specific data, formatted data to go out for these different dispersed platforms to talk to each other. And that's what basically API primarily is. And that's the fun part of API, that you don't have to have the same infrastructure as Google or AT&T or Sprint or any other providers, as long as there's translation on predefined rules. It can be all done in cloud. There's no infrastructure needed. Bit of customization and programming with SDKs that companies like Vonage provide, and boom, you're good to go.
Thanks for the clarification. And then, for the folks as well, we've got on our webpage, transformx.io, in the insights section, there's a fantastic article on APIs. We're happy to share it with the folks as well. And just for clarification too, all the people who have registered for this in the coming week will also be receiving a white paper on this topic as well, which is going to have some of these things covered too in regards to what the API piece and CPaaS is. We have the clarification question from Lana. For clarification on the commercial side, is it consumption-based, event-based, or else? I think she wants to understand the pricing model. Steve, if you can sort of talk about it a little bit from your sense.
Sure. It's the pricing model is essentially usage-based. The messages received, calls that are placed. So it is a usage-based model.
Okay, and the usage is different for it's measured differently for SMS versus voice versus video as well.
Yeah, and we have those differences, those specific rates identified. So if you were to go to our pricing pages, you would see how they differ.
Okay, we will definitely do that as well. So we've got a few more questions. I understand we're about 8 minutes left. So are CPaaS and UCaaS the same platforms and offerings, since they both provide a communication platform? Which one of you want to take that?
I could take this one, Javed.
Okay.
So starting off with, both of them are cloud-based platforms. So that's the only similarity that they have, other than they both are platform as a service, and they provide cloud-based service. CPaaS, which is communication platform as a service, again, cloud-based. It allows developers to add programmable real-time communication features like voice, chat, video, text into their applications via APIs without having to induct infrastructure. So it's all cloud-based. Most CPaaS functionality today based focus on helping companies communicate with the customer. So that's the primary difference is uh, it's customer facing versus UCaaS, which is unified communication as a service. It's more for internal communications within the company or enterprise. It does provide similar uh, uh, features such as audio, web conferencing, collaboration tools for the enterprise, cloud hosted emails, but that's more geared towards the internal piece, internal for the organization. CPaaS is outward towards the customer. Another
Towards
key
customers.
difference is, yes, and another key difference is the UCaaS, which is Unified Communication as a Service, which is more enterprise oriented. It's a off the shelf white label. It comes as is. It's a plug and play turnkey solution, but it usually comes pre-built. So there's not much customization a customer or a client can do. Versus CPaaS, which is highly customizable, very scalable, and the user and their developer team or the provider team, the development team can customize to the nth level. One quick example I can give is uh, if you have a building blocks and you're trying to build something like Lego or those building blocks, uh, UCAS is more like a 10 window, 2 door building, or you can take a different version of 5 window, 1 door building, but that's it. On the other hand, CPaaS is you have a bunch of blocks and you can build whatever you want. It's highly customizable.
Reminds me of
And
Lego, as growing up as
that's
a kid as
exactly what I
well.
was going with. That's exactly what I was going with.
All right. So the next question is, when you mention private numbers or call proxy, I'm assuming, Steve, this is for you. Are these numbers one-time use only? Can you
Well,
elaborate on that?
yeah, they're one time. These private numbers are one time use from the standpoint of a particular customer and that particular journey. Um, Important to know, however, that the difference here is that these numbers are refreshed in intervals and they're refreshed at the discretion of the vendor. And so they're ultimately managed and recycled. So that one-time use for the journey, and can't be reused after that journey, but they're refreshed and reused. So it's a pool that can be refreshed.
All right, fair enough. We've got a roadmap question. I think this one's going to go to you, Steve, as well. How do we see CPaaS transforming with the emergence and implementation of 5G networks? Is that on your roadmap as well, I'm assuming?
Well, for the specifics of that, I may defer to my product colleagues for the roadmap in particular, and the details around how 5G ultimately impacts customer experiences. And I'm happy to engage after the call to talk about that in a little bit more detail. I mean, I think it opens up a whole lot in terms of AI in particular, and just general efficiencies. But I'd be happy to engage a little bit more in more detail on this one.
Sure, and I'm assuming it adds plenty of more dimensions into, how text is enabled or voice or video and bots and other things as well.
Absolutely.
Scary stuff, I would say. Um, the next one we've got is, and I think we've got time for maybe another one. How is the data captured in mobility utilized by service providers? Any example?
I can take this one, Javed. So basically, in CPaaS platforms, they capture real-time analytics and dynamic reporting. They use those tools, and anything from SMS delivery, click to open, how many consumers were engaged, what's the response time. Since it's a cloud-based communication, there's very little or no platform involved from the consumer or the operating company model. It takes the data analytics to the next level, to say the least. And with that power in your hand, now you have real-time data. You have currently analyzing historical reports. You're using user forecasting. You are making data-driven decisions. You have real-time insight of consumer insights. This data is also very heavily used and taken back from IoT devices, Internet of Things, in industrial commercial platforms. You throw in adaptive routing to select the best data route for communication and business decisions. You have chatbots that come in that use that data. You have artificial intelligence that use the data. So this is all real-time data that is captured, analyzed, presented, and then reused on a very, very large scale, all in the cloud. And from click to open, like I said, to consumer insights, it opens the doors for targeted interaction, customized marketing campaigns, and also integration with similar providers. Because the way industry is heading towards right now, the players are not competing. It's not a competition world anymore. It's becoming more and more collaborative. So you'll see Amazon and Google providing a similar product, where in the past they would not even think about it. So all that data sharing in real time is really changing the economy as we go forward, and the technology as we go forward. So CPaaS enables real-time collection, analyzing, and sharing of that data.
I think that's very well said as well. And rightfully so, the way clouds are collaborating and colluding to form better, faster, and informed data, the velocity and the veracity of data that's sort of enabling that, and all the AI models that are coming on top. I think any industry, especially the ones that is so real time. I mean, imagine I wrote my first blog on Uber back in 2011 or 12, I think. And I was fascinated the first time I took an Uber ride, where I just kept on thinking how many industries are combining or colluding to make this one transaction happen. And I think we're going into the new dimensions of that for every industry and every use case, whether it's and it's much of it is also enabled by voice and video and so forth as well. So exactly. I think we're at time now. Any last minute parting comments, Imran, Steve, from you guys?
No, it's been a pleasure. As Javed said earlier in the conversation, this is just one of the first ones that webinars that we're having. It is backed by a very extensive and very detailed white paper that is going to be going to you folks. That has a lot of questions that are not asked in this webinar, but it has a lot of information. Please feel free to go through it and let us know if we can assist you and your organization in any of your mobility needs. Pleasure talking to you from my end.
Yeah, thanks very much. I appreciate the opportunity to be here today and to team up with TransformX to deliver the message of CPaaS and the customer journeys and fulfilling those journeys.
And we thank you both for joining us as well. And then especially all the panelists and the attendees, all the folks at TransformX and Vonage that collaborated to make this a reality. We appreciate that. Next steps, connect at transformx.io. Just reach out to us. We are partnering with Vonage. We'll bring you the collective journey around this. We'll handhold you through this, bring in all the Vonage folks to deliver their product, deliver the promise, deliver their experience. And until the next one, we look forward to more questions, more conversations, and more evolution of this industry as well. Till that time, it's a goodbye from this side, and thank you so much.